we got up to 279 yesterday, came off a little bit, but closed above 278. After hours, Trump proposed 200 billion in new tariffs on his way out the door to Europe. Market reacted negatively because we did just move up from the low the other day was 271, and then we broke out above 274. There was definitely some room to give back, certainly into this area where we bottomed overnight, which I think was probably down here somewhere. You do have the gap fill from Friday to Monday, which a full gap fill would take us to here. I doubt that happens, but that's probably what people's have their eyes on if the market is weak today and see some selling again tomorrow. A more likely scenario is, let's just zoom in here. More likely scenario is a test of this area from yesterday's low, 2 days ago's low, right here, 276.5. So buying into this retest, I think that's a pretty good risk reward for move back up to here. If we spike on the open, I do already have a scripting to get short into 278. Just because when things have run up a lot and when you gap down on some news, if you can get a big enough move off of the overnight low, kind of a potential area, prior support, can become resistance now. So maybe could walk into something. Not willing to risk that much because the market has shaken off negative news lately, has broken out of the range in the last month or so, and has been strong. But willing to take that here. And then on the flip side, whoa, something just happened. There's some news that just came out, clearly. We'll find out in a minute.
Other ways to retaliate against the U.S., considering it delaying approval of mergers as one countermeasure to latest tariff threats. XPI shares moving lower on this report.
So basically, China came out and said one of the ways they can retaliate is to block some mergers. Obviously, NXPI is the poster boy for mergers being impacted by China. That's why I punched it up. Anyway, it looks like the SPYs didn't quite get to my buy price. So I got the 276.80. So we'll see. Certainly some tensions are heating up now. But this would be the area to look at the buy. This would be the area to look at the short. And I'll play this range to start the day. And we'll go from there. On the IWM side, so IWM was sold. I wasn't even watching it closely yesterday, but we talked about this possible failure up here, pull back to 168. Now I'll use 168. I use this as my potential resistance band. So it trended down very cleanly, trended up very cleanly. And it's broken the uptrend from the last week or so. 168 to 168.35 is our band for resistance now. I actually didn't have any alerts. Or was I even on the desk? I guess I wasn't even on the desk for this, but so maybe I did have some alerts. Any time you get up to back up to an area where the market sold off strongly. I think I talked about this in yesterday's morning meeting, or maybe 2 days ago. But we sold off so hard from here when we got down below 169 that it's always worth, if we fail here and get below 169, to try to capture a point or two. I'm sure that's probably helped push things down yesterday. We consolidated right above the level we broke through, and we trended down about $1.50 before bouncing back up. So if we get through this band and consolidate above it, then I would assume that business as usual will get right back up to the highs. But nice change in momentum there. All right, Fastmal, FAST. So I wasn't really that impressed with the number. It was a really solid beat on the EPS, but if you dug down a little bit, and I didn't have a ton of time to look at it, but my impression was that the beat on the number is likely due to the change in tax rates this year. They didn't say that.
S&P futures slipping a little bit.
Which is kind of pathetic and not honest, but I mean, I guess it's possible maybe that wasn't it. But if you looked at kind of the margin levels and the fact that the revenues were pretty in line, the margins weren't that great, relatively speaking, and that they beat by so much, it should, what do you have left is the tax rate. So in that case, the gap into this area, you would think would be a pretty good short, and you'll see. So it's not that beaten down. It's actually up on the year. We go back on the daily. It's come off recently, but we go back. Here's the beginning of the year. Interesting. I read that it was up on the year, but maybe it actually was down on the year. So this is kind of the flat line for the year right here. I guess if you factor in the dividend that they probably paid out so far, maybe it brings it the break even for the year for holders is like here. It does change the dynamic a little bit. The reason it changes the dynamic a little bit, if the stock had been up for the year 9%, which is what I thought I read, maybe it was down 9%. It makes the gap not as, you would think, not as fadeable. Still have the levels here, 53.7 to 54 up here. Resistance, I said 53, I think, as inflection, where it's getting sold a little bit in the pre-market right here. So FAST is a pretty good mover. The ETR is down to $1, but over the last, I've traded a bunch of times on earnings over the last 5-6 years, and it can move. Like it could drop out to here on the open and then do one of those. So not that dissimilar to Pepsi yesterday, but with less risk. So spreads narrower, should be narrower. The stock is much lower price stock, at half the price. So I'm prepared to play it either way, but definitely looking to fade a quick pop on the open to this area right here. We have support. Yeah, we have 52, and then below that, it's. I guess I probably got off the 30-minute. So a 2 ATR range would be something like that. EBBV. I don't know how important this drug is. That failed the clinical trial, the blood cancer drug, but it is reacting to that so far, but not enough volume to draw any conclusions. The most interesting thing to me about it is that it just rallied all the way back up to the area where it had sold off from. It was actually got above there. So it had been consolidating for a couple of weeks between 100 and 97. Broke to the downside, went all the way down to 91. And we had gotten back inside of the consolidation area. So shorting into the pop into here would be a normal. People looking to get out who just got in down here. People who also didn't sell yesterday who had been buying, don't like the news. Could sell right into this into 90, on the sheet 97.5, 98. Let's zoom in. So this would be the ideal spot right here, where when it failed at 98, it came there. There was a seller there. Yesterday, it actually got above there and held. So this is the spot right here. Any type of failure in this area right here, then gets below 97. You look to trade it down to here. This is about 1 ATR. and slightly lowered their rev per seat guidance. These stocks, since this came out of bankruptcy, I mean, it just overshoots. Here's the daily on it. I try to short it in the 50s. It goes too high, then it sells off $20. Try to buy it in the mid 30s, then it overshoots and then goes back up. It's just been a really big, from a big picture perspective, a difficult stock to trade. You can actually just see how nasty. When you look at these, there's no clean trends in it. It comes back up to an area where you think you can short it. It actually did fail here, and came back up and did fail again. Broke through the prior high and got crushed. Came back up and then got crushed again. I mean, this is just pure nastiness. I'm not 100% sure why I put it on the sheet. I guess there's thin news. What kind of caught my attention was if you look at it for the last 18 months, so from here, from a time period standpoint, this is 18 months. It has spent most of its time in the last 18 months above $40, even above 42.5. So the natural thing for it to do would be to like come back into this area back here. It was starting to bounce recently. So you can see whatever this day was here, I forget what the news was, but got smacked. And then they started accumulating it. I wasn't really watching it too closely. But after bouncing from here, it came in, made the higher low. There must have been some news that day because there's a wick here. Right on the open, they dropped it out. It was being bought here at 37.50. Probably people thinking accumulated for move back up to 40. I'm kind of curious to see if this slight guide down is an opportunity for people to buy it on a flush right on the open. It makes another higher low. Did I put that on the sheet? Yes, I did. So 38 here is what I was thinking. 37.50 is the spot where last week they bought it 3 days in a row. Either one of these places, they buy it and it gets back above, let's say 38, 35, this level right here. Look for a move back here. The idea being that one of the reasons why it's been beaten down lately is they think that part of it is the revenues per seat mile is not that good. I guess maybe the cost of fuel maybe factoring in there a little bit as well. From a technical standpoint, a little bit of a slightly negative catalyst to give us a flush right on the open, a chance to get in, to see if it continues to work its way back up to here. That's interesting to me. Question on ACHV. So ACHV, I don't remember what the catalyst was here. First of all, let's look at the daily so you can put this in perspective. So this is another one of these stocks that is just basically out of business or almost out of business. And, similar to AXON, and they come out with a press release, and because it's such a low price stock, a few big traders can buy up the float, and they cause it to go up like this, and then it just goes right back down. The news today, this is interesting. This is perfect. I mean, it's a great press release. Achieve Life Sciences to start phase 2 trial for smoking cessation in Q4. So, I mean, as much as smoking has gone down in the U.S., there's still tens of millions of people who smoke. Retail traders can understand that news. Holy shit, they've got a drug where the people can stop smoking. So what does it do? It goes right back up to here. Because they're going to magically be the company that comes up with the drug that gets people to quit smoking. So I didn't see anybody on the desk shorted already. But here's the deal. It came up to here last time, 5.5, 6, and come right back down to $3.50. So unless on the open it holds $5, and so you can already see this. I mean, these things just over and over. It's the same pattern, right? They bid it up, it comes back down. People are shorting it. They're trying to hold it above 5 here. It's a lower high. It gets below 5. Like all hell can break loose. It can go all the way back down to 4, 350. So, but they are buying it here right now. I'll give them that. So if it doesn't very quickly take out this resistance on the open here and gets below 5, there's going to be a lot of people hitting out. And it could be ugly, ugly, ugly Betty. But certainly it's definitely a stock worth looking at, obviously. PP. So this was yesterday. They dropped it out to S1 on the open. We had this on the sheet right here. I haven't changed anything from the markup from the morning game plan. So it did hit our level right on the open. It's pre-market support. Got back above 110. I'm sure some people traded on long up to pre-market resistance. And then it started to consolidate and hold that pre-market resistance. So it looked like it might actually go up to the next potential resistance, but broke to the downside. So probably most people are long. It stopped out right here. End of the day closed strong. So it does look like it potentially could have some upside follow through. Right on the sheet, 111.80. So that's this pullback low into the afternoon. So that's the first potential support is right here, 111.85. And then below that, if it got a little bit nasty, a little bit closer to this pullback low from midday. But regardless, if you see consolidation above 112 in the morning and then takes out today's high, 113.5, 114 definitely possible the way that it held the gap on the open yesterday and closed strong. Next one is SQ. So SQ, it was kind of a throwaway idea on the open yesterday. I remember I talked about the big picture setup where it made a lower high on the daily, then had a downgrade. Sometimes you get these situations where people will say, oh, it's a non-event, it's a downgrade, let's buy it. And they did right on the open. It overshot a little bit to the upside above kind of the area where I thought, right here at 66.5 would be a nice short, but it did. Let's see what it did. It only actually had one bar where it closed above that 66.5. The next one was spike up, close below, and then next bar was red. So I think kind of the real conservative short was probably after it came all the way back down to 65.5 and came back up to 66 to look for a failure here. Because at this point you can look for a downtrend. And then you got this. This was the cleanest. And you have to be really watching it after 10 o'clock and say, oh, it failed, kind of what we talked about in the morning meeting. It got back below 66, came back up here, it failed lower, and now it's holding below, which means other people were jumping in on the sell side and just started to hold lower, and eventually they hit it pretty good. So if that's the longer term top, what you would expect today is it wouldn't get above here. And sometimes these things take a little bit of time to develop. You just have to keep them on your radar, understand what the important levels are, and look for closes on the 5-minute above or below those levels. And the best thing that you can do as a short-term trader intraday is look for horizontal consolidation tight above or below a key level. And like this is it, right? This is exactly, if you're writing a script and this was your weakness here, what you'd want to see is at least 4 bars of like this below the key level in a tight range. In this case, it was 15 cents, which is about 6% of an ATR. Anything less than about 10% of an ATR consolidation is pretty good. So, all right, that's the lesson of the morning. Let's wrap this up. BABA. So BABA, people have been asking about it the last couple of days. It overshot to the upside a little bit. I thought 194 to 195 was a stretch from the size that it bounced from. Unfortunately, really the reversal. I mean, I guess it did fail out here and got below 94. You could have shorted it, but the real move happened in the after hours yesterday. So if we look at it from a perspective of how the size of the bounce to the retracement, it's coming in. This is about 50% right here. What I mean by 50% is from the low to the high here the last couple of days. This is where you would look for it to support. It's going to work its way back to 200. So I think I already have a script in to buy it into like a flush through 188. And it was down there at the London Open this morning. And so get long against 187, I guess, right here. Into this right here. Sell some here. and see if we can get back to 192.